Hi. There have been some significant new developments on the question of detached dual occupancy. For example, you might have read that recently the state government has issued its response to a New South Wales Parliament Upper House inquiry on this subject, so I'd love to give you an update. This is one of the most common issues that I'm asked about on council, so I'd like to dig a little deeper and explain how we got here and where we are. This video is a little bit more technical than others that I've made, but if you're still watching, I'm guessing that you are one of the interested ones. Dual occupancy is the ability to build a second house on your own land without subdividing it. Your land remains under one title. There are three kinds. Secondary dwellings, otherwise known as granny flats, that are already permitted in these zones. But there are size limits, meaning that they're usually one bedroom and they need to be close to the primary dwelling. An attached dual occupancy could be a second full-sized house, but it needs to be connected to the original house, like a duplex or connected with a common wall or a breezeway or a covered walkway. And they are already allowed in the Hawkesbury in these zones. What isn't currently permitted are detached dual occupancies, second houses of any size, anywhere on your acreage block, and that is something that I have been going on about for a long, long time. If you want to know more, see my various earlier videos, and especially this 2021 explainer on why I have advocated for this for so long. I think it's going to be useful for you to understand some of the history of this issue. The earliest reference that I can find in old council papers to permit detached dual occupancy is November 2012, when Councillor Bob Porter failed to persuade the Chamber to allow Hawkesbury Council to have the same policy that Penrith already had, which permitted it. He had another go with a motion in June 2014, and it passed. It said that we should amend our LEP to permit detached dual occupancy for all rural properties 5 acres and up. That led to a report in 2015 and then a refusal from the state government in February 2016. And the reasons given for refusal included flood evacuation concerns. In both May and October 2016, more in hope than expectation, we asked again for updates, which I think details part of the problem that we have here. Motions that just ask for information but don't have any action words associated with them. Councillor Peter Reynolds had a go in October 2017, suggesting that we might have more success if we asked to have detached dual occupancy in just certain areas like Oakville and Moralia. That also went nowhere. In December 2021, at the very last meeting of my first term on council, the Chamber voted to endorse the form of a long-delayed new LEP, or Local Environmental Plan, and advance it to a process called Gateway, where the state government gives it their tick. The LEP is our key planning document. Our current one dates to 2012, and by now it is completely out of date. You can see from this document that the new LEP included another go at getting detached dual occupancies approved in rural zones. It was our best chance yet to finally get it up. And crucially, we were told that the state government were finally on board. Now, many, including me, were baffled when at literally the first meeting of the newly elected council in January 2022, a combination of Liberal and Labor councillors joined forces to pull the LEP back. I likened it at the time as being like trying to take a newly launched ocean liner and pulling it back up onto the slipway. Those councillors said that the delay was to let an obscure group called the LEP Reference Group, which included property developers, to meet with councillors. They suggested that the reference group had not been given a chance to give us their advice. This despite the fact that the reference group had met 10 times since November 2020 to provide guidance into the final wording of the LEP. Months later, the group finally met with us and told us that they did not understand why the LEP document had been pulled. They were perfectly happy with it. It remains my belief that if the Chamber had not caused this unnecessary delay, the new LEP would be in operation right now, including dual occupancy. In my opinion, delaying the LEP was an act of vandalism. Fast forward 4.5 years, and the new LEP is nowhere to be seen, without even a forecast date from staff. Frankly, it is an embarrassment. In June of 2025, I moved my own motion to take action in an attempt to make some progress. If the great big LEP was constipated, I thought we could try for laser microsurgery. My goal was simple: take every zone where attached dual occupancy was already permitted in the current LEP and just remove the word attached. That's it. Remove one word. The motion passed. The local planning panel gave it their endorsement on July 17th. We voted again on August 12th to send it to the gateway process. It came back on November 13th, giving us conditional approval to proceed. I've got to tell you, in the scheme of things relating to planning matters, that is light speed, and hopes were high. The gateway approval that we got from state told council that we had to do 3 things: do some consultation with the New South Wales Reconstruction Authority and the SES, place the policy on exhibition and finalise it before a deadline of 25th August 2026, and then crucially, consider the impacts of an upper house inquiry into dual occupancy after that proposal came back from exhibition. The deadline had no other qualifications. We were just told to get it done. So what's the upper house inquiry? Well, shortly after Hawkesbury moved our excellent proposal, I started getting calls from other people telling me what a good idea it was. Mark Hornshaw, who's an ex-Hawkesbury boy and an ex-Liberal and now Libertarian councillor up at Port Macquarie Hastings Council, successfully moved a similar motion inspired by ours. And in July 2025, I got a call from a state colleague, John Ruddock. He sits in the New South Wales Upper House as a member of the Libertarian Party, but he is also a former Lib and a good friend. By the way, you might notice that the common thread here is that if you want to get anything useful done in the world, leave the Liberal Party. But that is a discussion for another time. He successfully pushed for the New South Wales Parliament to hold an inquiry into dual occupancy with remarkable bipartisan support. With John appointed as the chair, they deliberated from October to December last year. John and the committee came to the Hawkesbury and we spoke to residents who want to build dual occupancies for their adult kids or for their elderly parents, or to build farm accommodation to keep our agricultural lands viable. Our council officials and local advocates like Troy Myers explained at public hearings what we were doing, and the inquiry produced its report on the 30th of March. More recently, the New South Wales government has issued its own response to the inquiry's recommendations on June 30th. Now, why is this important? I think that there are 3 ways that residents in the Hawkesbury are going to get some changes to their ability to site a second detached dwelling on their land under one title. And it's going to be a race to see which one bears fruit first. Now that we can see the government's response, we can see that they have given in-principle support for secondary dwellings and dual occupancy in these zones as what's called compliant development. And they're going to wire that into the housing SEPP or some other SEPs. SEPP are state environmental planning policies, and they take precedence. They gazump whatever conditions our or another council's LEP has in effect. For people who have illegal or unapproved dual occupancies, and there are a lot of those in the Hawkesbury, trust me, the government was more muted about there being an amnesty, only saying that the inquiry's recommendation was noted. This does not mean that there is no hope for people wishing to regularise dual occupancies that they already have on the sly, but that the government will consider the implications. My advice is stay tuned. If the New South Wales Minister for Planning, Paul Scully, decides to act at state level to implement the recommendations of this inquiry, then some parts of what we've tried to do locally become moot. The second track is for Hawkesbury Council's own proposal to be exhibited, attract community feedback, come back and then be voted on before the end of the year and become an active policy. Now, I have pushed our council staff regularly about whether we will meet the August 25th deadline set for us. And I am disappointed to report to you that the most recent advice that I've received back is that we will not. Staff are telling me that this is likely to be pushed out to Christmas. And I am very unhappy about that, because the reason that they're citing to me for the delay is because of the, quote, need to update the planning proposal following the New South Wales Government's response to the recommendations of the New South Wales Parliamentary Inquiry. That's the one that we've just been talking about. But look, the gateway approval that we received from the state last November told us fairly clearly not to do that. It told us to get the document out onto exhibition and tweak it to include those impacts after it comes back from exhibition. Worse, I've been told that that other work, the consultation that we were told to do back in November with the New South Wales Reconstruction Authority and the SES, hasn't even happened. We could have acted on that 7 months ago. I have conveyed my disappointment to the Mayor. Then there is the third and final way that we might see movement, and that is through the new LEP, which is now 8 years late, finally emerging from the mist. That process is now so laughably delayed, I don't even know what to tell you. There is no date, and there is no prerequisite condition anybody has been able to tell me that might let us all know when it will be presented to the Chamber for approval. But don't hold your breath. I am approached regularly by people who just want this reform to happen so that they can look after their elderly parents with dignity, or give a leg up to their adult children to stay in the communities that they feel an affinity for, but without keeping them crowded under one roof, like packed to the rafters. At a time when there is a crisis in housing affordability, where the costs of rural living could be eased by facilitating multi-generational households, and where people should enjoy the flexibility of building on their own land, all I can say is that I will continue to advocate for you. I am Nathan Zempronio, Independent Councillor on Hawkesbury City Council, and thanks for watching.